Good morning. It is a tradition in February to explore the topic of love, of course. It is one of the 12 powers that Unity co founder Charles Fillmore told us about and told us was inherently in all of us love. We just need to access it, and it will profoundly influence our lives for the better. So, what exactly is that love that Fillmore was speaking of, and how do we tap into it? One thing it is not necessarily is romantic love. Romantic love is often ego oriented and can change to hate in a second when the object of our love disappoints us. This is conditional love and not what we're talking about. This conditional love is often called eros love, but today we're going to talk about agape love, that pure, unconditional love that Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, and all enlightened masters have encouraged us to access within us. It's the love that Charles Fillmore was referring to in his 12 powers. This unconditional love is most often thought of when thinking of a mother's love for her child. Children, as we know, can do some awful things, but their mothers still love them and understand them. So let's look at some different aspects of this love, Love, this divine love, and how we can access it and thus change our lives for the better. L, living in light and laughter. O, omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience, or God. V, vision and vitality, meaning Christ vision and the vitality that this vision promotes. And E, enlightened enthusiasm about life. Bottom line, if we live in a state of real agape love, unconditional spiritual love, we tend to live in an atmosphere of light and laughter because we're full of joy no matter what is happening. I'd like to tell you a story to illustrate this point. There was a guy from New Orleans. He died. He was sent by mistake to hell. The devil puts him to work breaking up rocks with a sledgehammer. To make it worse, he cranks up the temperature and the humidity down there. After a couple of days, the devil checks in on his latest arrival to see if he's suffering adequately. The devil is aghast as the guy from New Orleans is happily swinging his hammer and whistling a happy tune. The devil walks up to him and says, I don't understand this. I've turned the heat way up. It's humid. You're crushing rocks. Why are you so happy? The guy from New Orleans, with a big smile, looks at the devil and replies, This is great. It reminds me of New Orleans in the summer, hot, humid, and a good place to work. It reminds me of home. This is fantastic. The devil, extremely perplexed, walks away to ponder the remarks of the guy from New Orleans. Then he decides to drop the temperature, to send down a driving rain and torrential wind. Soon, hell is a wet, muddy mess. Slogging through in mud up to his knees, the guy from New Orleans is happily pushing a wheelbarrow full of crushed rocks. Again, the devil asks how he can be so happy in such conditions. The guy from New Orleans replies, This is great, just like April at my grandparents' home in Vermont. It reminds me of working out in their yard during spring planting with them as a boy. I love it. The devil is now completely baffled, but more determined to make the guy from New Orleans suffer. He makes the temperature plummet. Suddenly, hell is blanketed with snow and ice. The devil is confident this will surely make the guy from New Orleans unhappy. He is again aghast at what he sees. The guy from New Orleans is dancing, singing, and twirling his sledgehammer as he cavorts about in glee. How can you be so happy? Don't you know it's 40 below zero? Screams the devil. Jumping up and down, the New Orleans guy throws a snowball at the devil, yelling, Hell's frozen over! Hell's frozen over! This can only mean the Saints have won the Super Bowl again. Hopefully, this story encouraged a little lightness and laughter to emphasize the title of today's lesson. But it also makes the point that if someone is truly living the truth principles, like this man who was sent to hell, this person is going to make the best out of everything, no matter what. Humor and lightness are gifts of God's love. Our ability to laugh in the midst of challenging circumstances and have a light touch on life are indicators of how much we are living the principles of truth and love. Let me say that again. Maybe you can close your eyes and really take it in this time. Humor and lightness are gifts of God's love. Our ability to laugh in the midst of challenging circumstances and have a light touch on life are indicators of how much we are living in and from this love. I'd love for you to practice shining your light and laughter in places that could use a big dose of God's love this week. Are you up for that? Let's talk about how to do it. There's a line from a song written by Leonard Cohen. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. I would make one slight but significant adjustment to those lyrics were I writing them, and that adjustment would be reflected in a story, a true story this time, that speaks to the meaning of these lyrics and the power of light, lightness, and laughter. It is a story of a young man who had cancer in his leg, and ultimately the only thing to be done to save his life was to amputate the leg. This was extremely difficult for him to handle, as you can imagine. He was young, fit, athletic, and now with only one leg. He went through a deep, dark night of the soul. But while he was in the physical rehab facility, they also offered him emotional rehab. And one thing that helped him was art therapy. Of the drawings he created early in his therapy, one was of a flower vase with a great crack in it. That was how he saw himself: flawed, damaged, cracked, no good to anyone, no use anymore. Do you know anyone who has ever felt that way? Have you ever felt that way? You may not have lost a limb, but you may have felt flawed, damaged, cracked, no good in some way, no use. That is how this young man felt, but he persevered in his physical and emotional healing, and he made great strides in both. Years after his healings, he returned to the place where he had recovered, going there as a compassionate friend to help and support those who were going through what he had once gone through himself. He was drawn into the room of a very young woman who had cancer, and to save her life, she had undergone a double mastectomy. There was no acknowledgement that she had heard anyone enter her room, although surely she had. He spoke to her. He tried to connect with her, but she was not available. She wouldn't talk. She wouldn't respond in any way to him. She just lay there with her face turned toward the wall. Suddenly, he had an idea and decided to take a risk. He turned on the radio in her room, turned up the volume, took off his prosthetic leg, stood on one foot, and started to dance. She slowly turned to him to see what in the world was going on. She eyed him suspiciously for a few moments and then said, "Well, I suppose if you can dance, then I can sing." And that she did, which was the beginning of her road to recovery, both physically and emotionally. And of course, you know where this story goes: down the aisle to the altar where they were married sometime later. That's a sweet end to a true story, but it's not the real point of it. The real point is that on the same day as his visit to his future wife, he also visited the therapist who had helped him through his dark night of the soul, and he looked through some of the drawings that he had left behind. Among them, he saw the one with the cracked face, the one that symbolized his brokenness and uselessness. In that moment, he realized that the drawing was incomplete. So he grabbed a yellow marker and started to draw a bright line down the crack. Streaks of light he started drawing coming through the crack because he saw clearly that without the crack, he never would have become the man he was that day. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. The revision to that song verse might be, that's how the light gets out. And when we realize that there is light inside of us, divine light, and inside of everyone, that is when we can lighten up about life, whatever it may seem to be. When we can let go of having to have perfect offerings and a perfect life, and rather know that we are perfect despite our cracks, then we can bring light, lightness, and laughter to our world. Modern fiction writer Jodi Picoult once said, "There's always going to be bad stuff out there. But here's the amazing thing. Light trumps darkness every time. You can stick a candle into the dark, but you can't stick the dark into the light." Have you ever been in a place where it's very, very dark and you light one candle, one little candle, and it brings light to an entire dark room? Well, the same is true with one thought of God's love. Remember, God is love. This love in you is like a candle in a dark place in our lives. One remembrance of God's love can bring light and lightness to a circumstance we are troubled by. One thought of God's love can bring lightness and light to our troubled selves, causing them to relax and remember the pattern of perfection that lies at their core. That pattern of perfection is God, the divinity that lives in you. One thought of God's love can bring lightness and light to our energetic vibration, causing us to attract rather than repel the good that life has to offer us. Whenever we are experiencing any darkness at all, we can light a candle in our lives with one thought of God's love. Let go and let God's love and light reign in your life. Jesus said, "Ye are the light of the world." You are the light, full and complete and bright, right here and now, exactly as you are, even if there is a perceived crack or two. In his book, Homesick for Heaven, Walter Stark, sharing thoughts from Joel Goldsmith, wrote, and I quote, "I am the light of the world and ever will be, and if you accept this teaching, you will shine as the noonday sun, in which there is no darkness at all. I am the light, will not permit questions of why or wherefore. It accepts itself as the full radiance of the risen sun. I am the light, seeks not for light, health, wealth, success, progress, but knows that which I am seeking, I am. That which I'm seeking, I am. Sing within yourself, morning, noon, and night. I am the life, the truth, the light. Let a song of joy and grateful recognition surge through your being, and know that the divine being is your only being. This being is the all-inclusive life, love, substance, law, and reality. Ye are the light of the world. As you rest in this consciousness, you will no longer find it necessary to overcome evil, destroy error, or battle your mortal mind. In and as the light, the darkness vanishes. I most love the line that says, "You are the light you are seeking." You are the light you are seeking. It's the same idea with love. We are the love we are seeking. Most people search for love, some frantically. But if we are love, love will come to us. We'll attract it. So say to yourself, I am the light. I am the light. I am the light. The O in love stands for omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence, which means God at unity. This aspect of love is easy, at least to understand. It's harder to remember to do. Let's let go and let God consistently and constantly. Let that omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience guide you. Let go of your little ego, your programming, your memories, stresses, and fears, and turn it all over to the three O's: omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence, or God. Ask for God's guidance, and you will access God's love in you. Rest assured. Ask, and ye shall receive. Ask to become conscious of your oneness with God, and you will realize your oneness with that force and omniscience. Say to yourself, I let go and I let God. I let go and I let God. In all things and in all ways and at all times, I let go and I let God. I let the love that God is guide me every step of the way. The V in love is vision and vitality. Vision is the ability to see clearly, to see with Christ vision. It is the ability to see everyone, including yourself, maybe sometimes especially yourself, as doing the best they can at any given time. You may have to forgive a few people, for they know not what they do. You may have to see through their damaged personalities to see the essence of their God souls. You may have to understand that they need to grow a little more. You may have to have compassion for them. You may have to remind yourself that what they are doing or saying has little to do with you and more to do with their own suffering. It is a cry for help. But if you see with your Christ vision, you will be freed from your own earthly reactions and distorted vision, and it will set you free to enjoy your own vitality and joy. The E in love stands for enlightened enthusiasm, and that is what you will feel if you let go and let God. It will free you to see everything clearly with your Christ vision. You will be free of your fears, stress, disappointments, and anger, and instead be filled with enthusiasm for life and a sense of fun and challenge, as with any game you play. The game of life should be fun. You will be able to turn lemons into lemonade. You'll figure out how to use everything as grist for the mill for you to grow from. You can start manifesting the life you want. Ask anyone who does it, and they will tell you that they transform their lives by letting go and letting God, and thus seeing the world and others with Christ vision. This is the way to see and be love all the time, and thus live a life of light and joy. It's sort of like being in a Mardi Gras festive mood all year, feeling the sense of mirth and merriment and oneness with the whole city. So remember, when things get tough and you get worried or fearful or stressed about what is going on, let go and let God, and put on your Christ vision glasses so that you can see the best in everything and everyone, including yourself. Let love, light, and laughter into your life starting today, right now. Let go and let God. And that light, love, and joy will flow through you from your inner divinity. So go out into the world, starting today with your Christ vision glasses on, so that you can see the truth of what is, that joy and love and a feeling of lightness are possible all the time. How? Go inside each day through prayer or meditation and access that divinity in you, that love that will help you see yourself and others and life differently. And then remember throughout the day to let go and let God. For every worry, fear, stress, decision, or dilemma that arises, turn it over to God. Let it be reframed, seen differently, and purified. Let go and let God. Then let God's light shine through you. Be the love and light that you used to look for, and start enjoying every minute. Let go and let God. You deserve to live that way, and it is only a decision away. Amen.